All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's your man, it's your boy, B. Vaughn. I want to welcome you to another episode of We Create Music TV. And for those of you who were watching before, thanks for tuning in. As always, a pleasure. For this show, man, I got my guy with me, Nick Jorgenson. So everybody, please give it up for my man, Nick.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
Hey. Yes, sir. Once again, welcome to We Create Music TV, man. I'm glad to have you here. I've been seeing a lot of things you've been doing on Instagram and social media, and just the impact you've been having on the music community as a whole. And I mean, I had to have you on just so we can chop it up.
Thank you. Yeah, that is my goal, right? It's how can I impact the music industry, especially with independent artists, in a positive way. So I'm glad that's kind of the perception of it.
I think you're doing a fantastic job, just ensuring that we as music creators are well informed and that we're receiving the tools and resources, kind of like what we do here. But you know what I'm saying? Like I love what you're doing, and I wanted to get you on and kind of just really talk about the things that you've been doing. But man, so like I said, my man Nick Jorgenson, aka Nick the manager. I know before everybody, before you had a chance to even tune in, we kind of were talking in the green room about using your real name versus using, your moniker, and just the importance of getting your name out there. And so, yeah, I think that's important because I kind of went through that same thing where I was known as one name and I kind of wanted to get away from it. One, because I was getting older. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't want to be known as,
What was it?
My moniker was Strychnine Music, but
Okay.
yeah. And so that's when I was really heavy into producing, and I just didn't want that to kind of be, I didn't want to be 80 and that still be,
Yeah, I
you know,
feel you.
I'm sitting in
Um,
boardrooms and they're like, it's Strychnine,
yeah,
I
so
guess.
like we were saying, it is a double-edged sword to have a
Mm,
moniker because it's catchier, people recognize it a little bit easier. But then when you try and switch over to your real name, people don't know who you are. Like a lot of people know me as Nick the manager. They have no idea who Nick Jorgensen is, but that's really who I am. Nick the manager is just a
mm-hmm,
handle I use to try and have a brand. And what's kind of interesting is that I think a lot of people don't even know I was Nick the manager starting about a year ago. Before that, I had a different moniker, which it was Germanicus, which is kind of like just a stupid nickname I got from high school. My buddy got super stoned watching Spartacus, like 300.
uh-huh,
He's like, and
yep.
my last name is Jorgensen, so he's like Geronicus. And so that became my nickname for like 10 years. And then I decided, that didn't make any sense. I wanted
Mm,
to level up, become more professional. And
mm-hmm,
that's where Nick the manager came in. And so rebranding was tough, but I think it is possible. And then
mm,
the next step, obviously, like we said, is moving to your real name at a certain
right.
point.
Yeah, I think the rebranding part is tough. I do think it's possible, right? I mean, we're doing it. I went from Strychnine to being, Bevon, but I
Right.
do think it's possible. I think it takes a lot of work. I think it takes a lot of effort to kind of correlate who you used to be and under that old moniker to what you're doing now. But I think it's kind of what you said too. I think for me, it wasn't so much being 80 and being in the boardrooms and be like, I'm Bevon, I'm Strychnine. I think it was more of the professional side of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like now I get, Dr. Dre and Timbaland and, Boy Wonder and people who are already famous with these types of names that have been established to them. But I think for me, it was just a personal decision for myself to say, how do I want to be perceived when I'm sitting in front of the CEOs of the music record labels? Do I want to just
Mhm.
be Strychnine, look at me, or do I want to be me and kind
Yeah.
of, I don't know. I think that was the whole reason why. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, for artist names and producer names, it's a little different. I'm just kind of like an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, essentially. But for artists and producers, I think having a unique name, whatever resonates with you, as long as you like it, right? As long as it correctly defines the art that you're putting out and it is recognizable and unique and can hit that SEO properly, then go for it. I think artists have more freedom there than other people in the industry, because there's a lot of artists that go by their artist name and then they have
Mm-hmm.
conversations with their friends as their real name, and that just
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, and the people at the record labels know them as their artist name versus knowing them
Right. Like
as their
Aubrey
real
for
name.
Drake, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine he was Aubrey instead of Drake, right? You're like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know,
mm,
he's really good. He might have been able to pull it off, but
he could have.
yeah, no, Drake is definitely, I think, better in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. Especially for the platform that he was aiming towards and what he wanted to do. I don't know if Aubrey would have carried as much weight as
Yeah,
Drake.
yeah.
So I mean, same thing with I don't know if you wanted to call him. I couldn't see like L Cole. You know what I'm saying? Like Lamar
Oh,
Cole or J. Like J
right.
Cole sounds dope, but
Yeah.
my name is Lamar. I'm a rapper. Like I don't know. I think they can get away with it, but I think people kind of in the business realm itself may not have so much leeway in using monikers unless it's something that's already established, like a Timbaland
Right.
or a Dr. Dre, something like that, where their name was established and then they went that route into the music business, and that's how we as the world knows them. But man, enough of that. Like I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that. But man, talk about you. Talk about your musical journey.
Okay.
Walk us through how you even got started in this whole thing.
All right. Yeah, so right now I'm Nick the manager. I am an artist manager. I manage three different artists, one of which has gotten almost 10 million streams. I'm a studio owner, so I'm in my studio right now. It's called Rap House Phoenix. I'm a Spotify playlister. I have multiple playlists on Spotify. I think it's like 70,000 followers, something like that. And then, in addition to that, I write guides to try and help artists. I'm constantly answering questions like from a management perspective. And then, I recently started a Patreon, which it's a subscription platform where people can pay me, $7 a month, to just be in the community. They get access to all of my informational videos, all my content. There's a whole community that connects on like Discord servers and has private events, all these giveaways. And I'm just really trying to build something for independent artists because
Mm,
I know when we started out 4 years ago, it was really difficult because we started out knowing nothing. And the way that that happened was through the Spotify playlist. So I have a few now, but back in the day, I only had one playlist, and it was called "Lifting Heavy Ass Weights." Um, and it's
oh yeah.
kind of a funny name, but it was my personal gym playlist. I had an iPod Nano back in college that I would take to the gym, and I ended up just transferring everything on my iPod onto my Spotify playlist when I got Spotify. And a couple years later, it ended up just getting some followers. So I remember it was like 2015, I want to say. I looked and it had like 1,200 followers or something, and I was like, "Oh, that's neat." I didn't see any benefit or any value in it because at that point, no one really knew about Spotify playlists. So I had this playlist. It was still my personal gym playlist. It still is.
Mm-hmm.
It was just starting to grow organically. It's always been organic. I've never really promoted it. Um, and as it started to grow, it hit 5,000, hit 10,000 followers. And then that's when people started reaching out to me in the industry. So
Mm,
at this point, I was just a guy working a cubicle. I had a playlist, and then labels started reaching out to me,
mm-hmm.
managers, artists. I started working with Universal Music Group for a while. And it just kind of became this thing that got my foot in the door in the music industry, because I always knew I wanted to be doing something with music or just something beyond my day job, like some kind of side hustle. I was following Gary Vee a lot back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then when this started happening, it's like, holy shit, this is really cool. I have these connections. I can reach out to people. I can talk to people that otherwise I wouldn't be able to get in contact with. And it was during those early days that Orrin Major, the first artist I ever managed, he reached out to me the same as anyone else did. Because as a playlister, you're getting messages every day from random people wherever they can contact you. So my Facebook DMs were like, I have hundreds of unread messages, and
Wow.
Oren was one of those. He reached out. He sent a couple songs. He's just very respectful. And what's funny is that I didn't respond to him when he sent me that message. He actually followed up a week later, and that just shows you persistence is
Mm,
extremely key in this industry. But he followed up. The second time I saw it, I listened to his music. and I really liked him. I thought he was really talented, and so we
Mm.
started a conversation. I started just helping him, however I could, because I saw he had like 12 monthly listeners or something just crazy low, and I was listening to the music and it didn't correlate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this guy deserves so much more attention, so many more listeners. And so I wanted to help him however I could. So the first thing I did was I added one of his songs to my playlist, and that started to grow really quickly.
Mm.
Um, it started spiking on Spotify's algorithmic playlists, so like Discover Weekly, Release Radar. And
Mm-hmm.
within like a couple months, he went from 0 to 50, 60,000 monthly listeners off of organic growth from Spotify. So that's how we got started. And at that point, we were just working together. I was helping him out, and then he asked me to be his manager. And I was like, what is a manager? I had never thought of myself becoming a manager. I didn't know what it was. So I Googled it and kind of figured it out. And I said, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so that's kind of how all of this started, just accidentally.
Wow. Yeah, that's a story right there. Is that you just accidentally fell into it, and now you're at the
Right.
position that you are at, basically because you were listening to music that you loved, and then
Right.
you figured, well, other people may be interested in music that I love too, and it just took off.
Yeah. I mean, so everyone these days seem to know about Spotify playlists. If you
Mm-hmm.
happen to not, they're essentially the new radio stations. So like back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, everyone would try and get on the record or the radio stations to get that airplay and that exposure. And then as we move towards streaming as a society, the playlists on Spotify became those new radio stations, because if you're on a playlist that's popping, people are listening and you're gaining fans from it.
That's right.
Um, So yeah, I had no idea what a playlist really meant. I had never thought of it as having value. I just made a playlist. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
really know it was public, and I was just using it for the gym. And people liked the music taste, I think, first off, and then also one of the key things I tell people is that it had a unique name. So just like we were
Mm.
talking about with artists or monikers,
Mm-hmm.
lifting heavy ass weights was, I was the only one calling a playlist that, and
Right.
I think it was just like catchy and fun to
Mm-hmm.
say, and it resonated with a lot of people. So I think that's where the playlist took off, and I started managing Oren. We grew his streams, 150,000 monthly listeners at one point. He was starting to make money from all different sources. We got him up to like $2,000 a month purely from streaming and features and syncs. We did some syncs, just all these
Okay.
different sources. And so we were building him up as an artist and leveling up his career for like 3 years. And just along the way, I was always helping people and helping other artists and kind of giving
Mm-hmm.
out information for free, until I eventually kind of transitioned into Nick the Manager as a brand, where now I offer services and information and all that, kind of as my business. So
That's right, man. And it is a viable, growing business as well. Like I said, I'm checking you out on social media, and I love the advice. I love reading the. I don't know if they're text or if they're DMs,
usually
but
DMs. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's usually DMs, right? And so of just how people are receiving the information that you're presenting to them, and how they're starting to use it to
Right.
further their own music career. And I think that's one of the things is missing. We say that people in the industry want to do it,
Mhm.
but I feel a lot of the times that they don't. Like you said in the beginning, that it was tough. You didn't really know anything.
Yeah.
You probably just had to figure out. We didn't have a Nick the Manager. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Record labels weren't really trying to give you information to grow you as an artist or as a producer. I mean, they were looking to make money off of you, and
Mhm.
a lot of times, even back before, Spotify and YouTube, it was hard. Like it was
Mhm.
hard to know this stuff. And still sometimes today, you kind of find people who want to hold information, want to
Right.
guard information, and want to keep it for themselves. I had a conversation with another guest, and we talked about. Matter of fact, it was the last episode, so make sure y'all go check it out with my man Hayden THC. But we talked about the scarcity versus abundance mentality, and how a
Mhm.
lot of people in the music industry have a scarcity mentality. It's like, yo, if Nick gets it, I may not get it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
if another person gets this particular feature or this placement or this meeting or this whatever, then what about me? I may not get it. But I love your approach in that you see it from a whole pie perspective, and that there's enough out there for everybody. So why not freely give information? Whether you freely give it or somebody paying you for it, right? I mean, we pay people for services. So
Right. Yeah.
I commend you on that.
And the whole crabs in a bucket mentality that you're talking about is completely the case, and that's why, the people who follow me and that tend to be in my community, they share my mindset, and so that's why we've been able to build up this community that has about 300 members that all want to learn together and work together, because it is almost always the case that people think if he gets it, I'm not going to get it. And, I do charge for my services, for my time, for my information now. But back 2 years ago, when I kind of started doing this, I was sending out everything for free. I always post on Instagram for free. And then I wrote my first guide. It was called Spotify for Dummies, because someone had emailed me asking
Mm-hmm.
me all these questions like, "How did you grow on Spotify? What are playlists?" And I took the time and I wrote out this super long email, and then I sent it to him. And I was like, "This could help other people." So I posted
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram, who wants it, and I did this for 3 different versions for several months, and I had sent out over 500 of those for free. Before I
Wow.
ever started charging. And the only reason I started charging was because people, first off, they wouldn't email me. They'd make me email them and like try and transcribe their
Mm-hmm.
email address. And then I'd send it to them and they'd come back asking me questions that were answered in the guide. And I was like, "Did you read it?" He's like, "No, I didn't get a chance to." I'm like,
Nah.
"Are you kidding me? I spent my time and energy to make this information and go and get it to you personally, and you didn't even
Mm-hmm.
read it, and now you're back here wasting my time asking me these questions."
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the reason I started selling this stuff. And then, my mindset now is that if I'm able to make a living off of it, then I can help people full time. Because right now I do still have a day job that's been sustaining everything. But if I can get to a point where, the Patreon's making me enough money, or what, all the other services I offer is making enough money, then I have full time to be able to help people, which I don't have now. I only have my limited, a couple hours after work. So yeah, that's the main reason that I start charging now, is that I don't want to waste my
Mm-hmm.
time. My time is limited, and if I can grow, I can help so many more people.
That's right. That's right, man. I love that because yes, I still maintain a full-time job too, and so
It's
yeah,
tough, man. I mean,
it's
even
super tough. It's super
yeah,
tough. It's super tough trying to organize and administer things and create things and provide information and answer emails, right? So that whole administrative side and creative side, and then you work from 8 to 5, 9 to 5, or whatever, and then
right.
if you got a family, then wow, it's
Yeah.
some of your time is going down. So I want to go back for a second, so because
Mhm.
you mentioned persistence, right?
Mhm.
That people in this industry need to be persistent. So what's the difference between being? I know this is kind of like a rhetorical question, but being persistent and being what's the word I want to use? Uh,
Uh, nagging or
yeah,
like,
nagging, or
I
because
know, yeah,
some people would say, well, I'm being persistent, right? I'm contacting you again. Obviously, you didn't hear me the first time, so here's more of my music, and here's more of it.
right.
There's a
So
difference between that. So kind of talk a little bit about
yeah, man,
from your
that's a great
perspective.
question. Um, I love that because as a playlister, as a manager, as a studio owner, as all these different things, I'm constantly having people reach out and ask for things, ask for time, ask for services. And there is a line between being persistent and being just kind of like negative. People get to a point where they'll message someone, and if you don't reply, they start attacking you. And I've had this happen all the time where it's like, I didn't get a chance to read your message, and now you're messaging again and again, like, "Yo, like, check your DMs. Why aren't you
Check
messaging
my
me back?"
right.
Like, bro, you don't know what my time is. So I've seen that side, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
is a blessing to see that, so that I don't repeat it. But as far as persistence, I think the main key to persistence is to not have persistence in your tone. So the way
Mm,
that you message people or you reach out, it should always be very overly polite, super etiquette, super courteous, and then the persistence just comes in the timing. So, you
mm-hmm.
know, message every other day, but it's still very positive. Like, hey, I know you didn't get a chance to see my last message, but if you get a chance, I'd love to hear back from you. Just be always super respectful because there's no reason not to be. This person doesn't owe you any of their time.
Right.
Um, and so that's always been my mindset. And then with persistence, I have a story I like to tell. About my studio. So, Rap House Phoenix is the studio that I built inside my house. And then I started running as a studio for a while, but then I wasn't loving it. And so I decided to reach out and try and use it as a tour lodging. So I offered it as an Airbnb slash studio, not to the general public, but to specifically artists on tour. And the way to get people in your house while they're on tour is not easy, especially if you're not established.
Yeah.
So, the first person that I was able to get in here was Earl Sweatshirt, and the way any of these, so I have Earl Sweatshirt, Ari Lennox, Jack Harlow was the last one, Fat Boy,
Jack.
all kinds of people. But the way that it happened was from me being persistent, but not
Mm,
crossing over that line to being
mm-hmm.
negative or taking it personally. So literally all I did was I would Google who's coming to town, figure out who the manager is, find their email address, and just follow up. It took
Mm-hmm.
to get Mark Battles in here, but I
Wow.
just kept saying, you have a list of different ways to say, just circling back, just checking
Yeah.
on. Hope you had a great weekend, and it's just like I'm just gonna keep messaging you till you tell me no. If you don't tell me
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm just gonna keep saying, hey, just want to check back.
Yep.
But yeah, persistence is just super important. And like even with Oren, I would not have been his manager if he didn't follow up.
Mm,
But again, he did it respectfully. He did it in the right way. He had the right
mm-hmm.
tone where I was welcoming the stranger to take my time and to have a
Right.
conversation with them.
Right. Yeah, that was I love how you said that. That's kind of the situation that happened with me and the artist that I was managing at the time. Is that he actually was a guest on the show. I interviewed him on the show, and then we had a conversation afterwards, and he just kind of put the bug out there. He was like, I'm looking for a manager. I know that you have a certain sense about you, an ability, a skill set about you. And I just wanted to pick your brain to see if that's something you're interested in.
Mm.
And so I said, well, no, not really. Nope. Nah, I won't do that. And so throughout that, I think it was probably a week and a half. And he sent me a message like, hey, can I set up a meeting with you just to talk about what I presented you with? And so he came over to the house and we talked for a while. And then I thought about it still. And then we ended up having a 3 hour meeting, like a 3 hour
Mm.
sit down where I walked through. I think that somebody I think I need to share that with somebody somewhere on my site. All these questions that I asked and went through. And I'll ask you this question too. This would be the question I ask you based off of the story I'm telling.
Mm.
Is so we went through a whole list of questions. Like, do I got to worry about baby mamas? Baby mama drama while we on tour, right? I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with
Right.
crazy baby mamas coming up to me. I don't want to deal with that. So we went through a whole bunch of different questions. And I did end up becoming his manager. It didn't work out the way that we thought it was going to work out. But in that vein, what are some things that you as a manager are looking for in an artist to work with them, to take them to the next level?
Right. Um, yeah, so so right now, that's a common question I get. Just, hey, can you manage me? And, my answer usually is like, why do you want a manager? So with management specifically, I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what it really is. A lot of people think it's like, some big shot, they hear one song and they're like, oh, he's a star. And then they sign you and then you blow up in the next day or week and, they
Yep.
change your life completely immediately. And that's just not what it is. So a manager to me is just like a business partner, essentially. Someone who's willing to invest in you with their time, their resources, um, and so the relationship is super important. So like with me and Oren, we're best friends. I mean, we talk about everything. It's not just can this person make good music? And so I always
Mm,
tell people, talent is a prerequisite. And then it's what are you doing for yourself already? Because if you're not working for yourself already and you're just expecting me to come in and do everything for you, that's not going to work. I need someone who knows what they're doing and just needs some extra help or some extra connections to kind of take them to the next step. A lot of people just they put out a few songs. They're like, "Oh, I need a manager," and it's like, no, you got to learn the game first. You got to figure out what you're doing, what your goals are, how you're realistically going to become successful in the industry. Because I think that's another thing. A lot of people are delusional. They think, I'm going to have
mm,
one big song and I'm going to become a billionaire. It's like it
mm-hmm.
doesn't work like that. So yeah, I think when it comes to me looking
Yeah.
for people, I got to know who you are as a person more so than anything else. We got to be
Mm,
able to chill on the couch together and have regular conversations.
right. Right. If I can't play Call of Duty with you, then I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I appreciate that because I think in this list of questions that I asked him, let me go back. I love that the person that you're going to be managing needs to be somebody that you can really be cool with. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're partners in this whole thing, and it's going to be really you and that person, right? Everybody else doesn't have that same type of relationship that the artist and the manager have. That's a different relationship than the
Right.
publicist and the artist, or the social media marketer and the artist.
Mm.
The manager and the artist are super tight. And that was one of the questions that I asked the artist that I was managing too. It was something along the lines of, I can't even think of the question now. I'm telling you, it was like 3 pages.
Yeah, no worries.
When I broke up 3 pages, he was like, "Oh shoot!" I mean, and we talked
Well,
about, Oh, I know what the question was, because you mentioned it about artists knowing who they are, and that was a
right.
question. I said, "Well, do you know who you are as an artist, and what do you
Mm.
think your image is that you're perceived that you are projecting to your fans? Who do they
Mm.
think you are?" I mean, we sat and we hashed out everything. But I think it's critically important for an artist who's going to get into this industry, whether you're artist, producer, that you kind of identify who you are and what your goals are and what you want to be perceived as. When you walk into a room, what do you want people to think about you as you're walking into that room? But
Mm.
yeah, man, I love it. So
Yeah.
so what was really your motivation for taking this route into in your musical journey?
Um, yeah, so like everything else I do, it just kind of comes organically. I'm never trying to force anything. So like I didn't force my playlist to become a thing. I didn't force to become a manager because I didn't even know what a manager was. The studio I only built out of necessity, and then when that didn't work out, I just pivoted. I started doing the tour lodging, and that worked out. And then with the Nick the Manager stuff, like information and services and helping people, that was just always something I did, but to build it into a business came just kind of naturally. So, like I said, with the guides, I sent them out for free for like 2 years, and then I got frustrated, and so I started listing them for sale. That started to bring
Mm-hmm.
in money. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Let's see what else what else I can do. Um, and
Yep.
so I did the guides for a while. I've done contests. I'm doing another contest this Sunday, which
Mm,
is gonna be cool. I did in-person classes, so that was one of the cool things.
I saw that.
Um, so Kato, the producer, he had
Hey,
invited me. Yeah,
Kato.
Kato's dope. I gotta commend him on, especially on his recent success, because
Mm-hmm.
he'd been big in the past, and then he was doing these classes that were really cool, and then with this recent TikTok viral song, like it's
I
awesome to see
know.
him
Yes, it
grow like
is.
that. But what had happened was just like everything else, I reached out to him to host him for his sound advice tour when he was
Okay.
coming through Arizona, and he had already picked a different space, and so he just invited me to come by, and so I attended the event. I learned, I kind of watched what he did as he was hosting this event where he was teaching people and giving feedback, and I met a bunch of the people there, and I talked to him after, and I decided that night I can do something like this, because he's no
Mm-hmm.
discredit to him, but I was having success in the streaming side currently, like all these new things, because a lot of the people who teach these classes had success years ago. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
they had success before Spotify existed.
Right.
Whereas nowadays, most people are focused on Spotify. So he taught the class. I watched the class. I loved it. And then the next day, I announced that I was going to do my own, just because. And so it sold out in
Mm-hmm.
like 12 hours. I did
Wow.
it. Felt amazing. It was like a 5 hour event. And I ended up doing another 11 or 12 within the next month, just month or two. And then I took it on tour to help pay for Orin's tour. So like he was doing
Mm-hmm.
shows and then I was doing classes the night before in each city so that we could meet people,
Wow.
pay for the Airbnbs,
Okay.
get people to come to the show, get openers for the show. And it just really worked out. So it was happening kind of out of necessity. And
Mm.
then with the lockdown that canceled the tour, I decided randomly to start the Patreon. Just like, all these people, like you said, send me these messages like, oh, I love everything that you've been doing. It helped me so much. It did this. And so I was like, I'll start a Patreon. Let's see if anyone, really appreciates me.
Mm-hmm.
And no one fucking signed up. you know? So I realized immediately, okay, it doesn't work like that. So I started posting some exclusive content, like
Mm.
the studio build, our financial reports, the tour schedule,
Mm-hmm.
just stuff that I had. And then I started getting some patrons. And so I've just been pushing that. And I love things where you can make progress. So like every time I get a new patron, I feel like I'm making progress because I'm building this community. And so I kept pushing, I kept finding new benefits to give to people. So, we got the Discord community where we have a private server. I do song reviews for free. I do playlist submissions. They get half off of all my contests. They get
Mm.
discounts on everything. Just all these benefits I can try and provide to people. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where my focus has been. But it was never my intention. Like looking back a year ago, I never imagined I'd be pushing Nick the manager as a real brand or business.
Yeah. Wow. That's wow. Yeah. Like I said, it's funny you say that because you was like, yeah, I started the Patreon and nobody signed up. Like
Yeah,
nobody signed
that's
up.
real, man. That's real.
Yeah, yeah. And I think people are like, okay, cool. I kind of want to, but kind of like that. What's the whiff and what's in it for me, right? And
Exactly.
so it's like, well, here's really what's in it for you, and it's that because I'm sure your brand is going to continue to grow, and there's
Mhm.
more services that you're going to be able to offer, and then you're going to be able to partner with other people to offer those services exclusively to your own Patreon community, and so
Right.
there's going to be a lot of uh,
Right. So that's
they're going to reap a
actually
lot of benefits from it.
one of the new exciting things. I forgot to mention. I've started partnering with major brands. So
Mm-hmm.
like Chaotica. Have you seen these
Chaotic
these
eyeball,
eyeballs?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
need.
I've just been
They never gave
emailing
me one.
all these different companies and saying, "Hey, I got this community. I'm always
Mm,
trying to get more benefits. Is there anything we can do?" And so they sent me a Chaotica. They're going to do a giveaway of a Chaotica. We have a discount code for the community. Mackie is doing a full studio bundle giveaway for my contest
wow.
this Sunday with monitors, microphone, headset. And yeah, it's just, uh, it's so cool to me. I never thought I'd
Yeah,
be
that's
in this
amazing. Wow,
position. Yeah.
that that is
I
amazing.
I
You
just
you
love
can,
these.
yeah. You know what? Look, yeah, I've always wanted one of those. We were in L.A. at ASCAP, and they
Mm.
were there. I think they had just came out maybe a year or so before.
Okay.
Maybe a year before. We were at ASCAP, and they were at ASCAP, and they had all these blue Chaotica eyeballs everywhere, and they
Mm.
were giving them out
Oh, wow.
to established people.
Uh,
Yeah, they were giving them out to established people, and I felt some type of way about it. I was like,
yeah.
because I knew some of them, like,
Uh,
and I'm sitting there with them. They're like, "Here's an eyeball for you.
oof.
Here's an eyeball for you." And I'm like, "What? I want an eyeball. I want." I'm like, "All right, whatever then." One day
Yeah.
they'll sponsor. One day we create music TV will get to the point where they can sponsor what we do here.
Right.
But regardless of that, kudos to you for getting your brand to a level where music, other music brands are starting to take notice and want to do business with you because you've
Right.
built up such a large community of people that now they can come and say, hey, what can we do together right? Because you
Right.
got 70,000, 80,000, you know, people on Spotify that you can reach out to. You got so many people in your Patreon and your community.
Right.
Oh yeah, once you start getting to a certain level, it's going to continue to grow. And then if we get past, I won't say
Don't say
if we get
it.
past, wow, when we get past this whole COVID-19 thing, and we can start really getting back out into the general population, like prison, right? General population. Like, well, I've never been there, but
Gym pop.
we get back to
Yeah.
gym pop, right? I can foresee a lot of things growing even more for you. But like I was telling somebody the other day, I'm kind of glad I see you doing it the way you're doing it, because the world is now going to be a hybrid world, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have those people who's like, well, I don't even want to attend these events online because I don't want to be in
Right.
large gatherings with people, and still being able to offer them things. And then those people like me who really want to go to music events and stuff to be able to come and do those things face to face. So yeah, man, that's wow. That's awesome that it's working out that way for you.
Yeah, and I guess the cool thing is that as I start getting these affiliates or sponsorships, then that builds up my brand, and then more people come in, and then I can reach out to more people, and so on and so forth. So
That's
I'm
right.
just really excited about where things are now, and I, yeah, it's just really cool. And then with the COVID-19 thing, it has been. There's no way to say it hasn't been tough for almost everyone.
Mm,
But for me, it definitely has been a blessing in that I actually got COVID. So I did get sick for a while.
mm,
It didn't affect me particularly hard, but I got over it in a couple weeks. But aside from that, everything has really drastically improved for me because with work, I used to have to drive to the office every day, and I'd be trapped there. I couldn't. Like my studio's in my house, so if I ever needed to come record a video real quick or make a post on Patreon or something, I couldn't do
hey,
that. But now I
right,
can because I'm working
right.
from home, and if I'm not, if I don't have a meeting or if I'm not working on something at that moment, if I need to take a break, I can come in here and get some stuff done. And then also with the lockdown, I wasn't traveling. I realized the
Mm,
only way to be successful was digitally, was to spread
mm-hmm.
the community online. And it forced me to grow the Patreon and grow the Instagram and keep putting out content. So when things do open, I'll be at a higher level than I was going into lockdown. So the classes
Right.
that were already fairly successful should be way, way better now,
Yeah.
if I do start touring. Because before, like I said, I'd done 14 events or something, 14 in-person group classes, to
Wow.
where I was thinking I'm gonna fly out to a different city every week just to meet
Mm-hmm.
people and help people, and every weekend. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to things starting to open up again. And
Yeah.
shows, man, I miss shows
I
a
know,
lot.
right? I know.
Right.
I just miss going to events and just gathering with other people and just dapping other
Yeah.
people up and be like, hey, what's good? Good to see you. Like, how you been? Like, oh man, I'm a huge extrovert, so I miss
Oh, that's
I
gotta be
miss
tough. Yeah.
those. It's super tough, but I put my extrovertism aside because of this COVID. So I'm not being in events and stuff, even though people still have events and they still. I'm not going. I'm
Yeah.
not. Trust me, nah,
Yeah.
nah. I got no, not your boy, not your boy.
Yeah.
So even in that same vein, besides dealing with COVID and this whole situation, what has been some major challenges for you, and kind of what did you learn from some of those?
Yeah. So, um, it's been a lot of challenges. I know I just said it was a blessing, but now that you asked that, we lost half of our tour. So, like I said, we were on tour. I was teaching classes as Oren was doing shows, and so we were on tour together. And we had just finished up LA March 1st. I had just done my last class, and then things started to close down. And so his biggest shows we could no longer do. They were with a bigger artist, and so those were where we were planning on selling a lot of the merch, making back a lot of the money that we had spent towards the tour costs. So unfortunately, we didn't get to recoup that, so that put us in a not so good position. And the classes which were working for me and I had momentum with, I couldn't do anymore, and that was like my whole thing. I had all this equipment set up. Yeah, I was ready to do classes every week for forever, and I couldn't do that anymore. And so I had to, figure out something else. And the first thing that I found was the song contest. So I had done contests in the past, mostly to get on the playlist. I would say, pre-save this new song and win a shout on the playlist, and that used to do really well. People liked my
Okay.
feedback because I try to be thorough. And so when we shut down, I was like, let me see. I think I can probably charge for these contests now. And so I started charging, $10, $20 for tickets. And I was making a good amount of money just doing these contests. And at the same time, people were loving the feedback. It was a great event for them because they're meeting other artists, they're
Mm-hmm.
collabing with each other. And it's like, oh my God, this is really cool. And so I did that like 8 weekends in a row, I want to say, like
Wow.
8 Sundays. And, you know, if you watch song contests or those kinds of events, they don't look that hard. But to be sitting in a room like this for 5 hours on a live stream, like critiquing 40, 50 songs,
Yeah,
it takes a lot out of you.
yeah.
So I couldn't do it anymore. And then after the contest finishes, I started the Patreon, started throwing my
Mm-hmm.
energy into that. But yeah, I think the main thing was losing the tour, losing the classes, and then also losing touch with Oren a lot. Because we were, best friends, but with lockdown, there wasn't much I could do for him. He couldn't come visit like he normally would. He would come record in my studio usually, and he couldn't do that. And so with me working on the Patreon and my stuff and him working on his stuff, we lost touch. And we kind of grew apart a little bit. We're still, I'm still his manager and we're still friends and all that, but we lost a lot of our relationship because of it. And it just kind of
Mm.
happened. It wasn't nothing specific happened. There was no falling out, but we grew apart, and I think that was the biggest challenge for me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still working with them to move
Wow.
past it and become close again. But yeah, and then not being able to see family. My
Mm-hmm.
family's all overseas, and so I haven't been able to see any of them in a year. Um, so there's been some hardships, but I've been forced to just lock in and just grind, and just do what I can, and that's kind of been working out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some people just be like, forget it. Ah, everything's died down, and I don't know what to do anymore. So I don't want to do anything. But I think it goes back to
Yeah.
what you just said: perseverance, pushing through. You know,
Mhm.
stick with itness. When I found out that
Yeah.
was a word, I was like, what? What is
Stick with
stick?
this. Yeah.
Stick with
I like
itness, right? And so your ability to stick with something even through hard times. And I remember,
that.
for me, my family, my daughter and my son were going to come down to Atlanta for Thanksgiving. And I was like, nah. My wife was like, they think
Yeah.
about coming down. I'm like, no, oh no. I don't know who they've been around. It's like even if they're my own kids, I'm like, no, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
nah, I don't.
Yeah.
My son's in the Navy, so he's been doing Navy stuff out at sea, and
Mhm.
my daughter is, I don't know who y'all been around, so I don't ever see y'all in mask anyway. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I know that's kind of no, and I mean people don't really come over our house, and we don't really go over anybody else's house, and so that kind of is a big. And for somebody who's extroverted as I am, I miss seeing my family. I miss seeing my brothers, but we
Yeah.
have started to take use of technology, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we never used to really Zoom before as a family, but now we Zoom like every other Saturday, where we can
Yeah.
see each other's face and have conversation. And I think when my cousin passed a couple of weeks ago,
Oh,
he passed from COVID,
yeah.
which was wow, which was a complete just mind blower right there because
Yeah.
we grew
I'm
up
sorry.
together. He was like my little brother. Yeah, I mean it is what it is. But I think that sparked the family to say, you know what, we got to get together. And
Yeah.
so I
Can't
I
take it for
think
granted.
yeah, I think even through this time, we as creatives have to figure out how to use technology to help further what we do.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to go back to the way it used to be. And so
Right.
using mediums like this, Zoom, shoot, I have a cousin that lives in Atlanta too, by the name of Superstar Six.
Mhm.
Amazing, amazing artist. We didn't even know we were related until like a couple days before he came onto the show to do the interview, and he did a full-fledged concert on Facebook Live.
Wow.
Had the smoke screen, had the mics, had the lights doing their thing, and he did the whole thing. So I mean, I would say artists, they need to start looking at ways to do that. I know we're not doing shows right now, but I think those mediums would be great. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna switch gears for a second. I'm gonna switch gears for a second. I know this is information that people pay you for, so I don't want you. So you don't got to spill all the beans, right? I mean, but if they want to know more, definitely get in contact with Nick, the manager. But let's talk about Spotify because I know everybody wants to get on Spotify. You know, so
Yeah.
what are some of the first? What are some of the misconceptions about Spotify, and
Mhm.
then how does somebody as an artist go about really connecting with a playlist curator such as yourself to get onto Spotify?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And that's really what my Spotify for Dummies guide was tailored around. It's like, what is Spotify? How do I utilize it? And then specifically with playlists, how do I reach out to these playlisters and, get them to actually listen because it's rough. So I'm gonna say that Spotify now and that whole world is very different than it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even last year, to where the playlist market is completely oversaturated, and it's really hard to know what's real and what's fake. To the point where I don't even think about playlists anymore. I mean, I have my own and I use those for, helping artists grow, but because I know mine is organic, but a lot of playlists out there are fake and they have bots and they're there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things being fake now, which didn't used to be the case. There used to be way more red flags where if you got on a playlist and the username was XYZ123 whatever, and you were getting more listeners than it had followers, and you were getting no saves, and there's key things you could see. But
Okay.
now they fake everything. So the playlists look legit. You'll get streams, you'll get follows, you'll get saves, and it's just out of control. So
Mm.
one of my artists, he's like, "Hey, I found this promo company. I'm just gonna try it." I was like, and I'm usually not for it, but I was like, I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
stop you. Paid, I think, $250, and he got damn near 500,000 streams, including like hundreds of thousands of saves, hundreds of thousands of follows on Spotify, like things that I didn't think were possible in a month.
Wow.
And I got that for $250. It's like,
Right.
so there's no way. There's like this law at play, I think, where you can't make more money from your streams than you paid for the streams. Like it just doesn't work that way. So I don't know what those numbers have looked like yet because stream data is like 3 months backdated for royalties, but I can't imagine he's getting 500,000 worth of streams worth of money from those streams. So I just think the whole marketplace is kind of oversaturated to where my strategies these days are really avoiding playlists, or avoiding playlist companies and trying to grow organically. So I'll give you most of the sauce. It's just trying to hit the algorithmic playlists. That's what all of our successes come from.
Mm-hmm.
So Discover Weekly and Release Radar. So all of my tactics are geared around hitting those. So like
Okay.
Release Radar. We know that the Release Radar is an algorithmic playlist that Spotify generates for everyone who has Spotify. And the songs that show up on your Release Radar as a listener are coming from artists that you follow. So whoever follows you on Spotify, they should be getting your newest songs in their Release Radar. But
Okay.
there are some caveats because people follow a lot of people. So I talk about growing your followers through pre-save links, through contests, any way you can, because as you grow that follower number, it increases your at bat chances on different release radars. And so the more release radars you get on, the more chance you have to get those streams first off. And then depending on how well it does in those first couple weeks on release radar determines how many more it gets on. So the way it works is you put out a song, and then once you've gotten a few thousand streams, Spotify's like, okay, let's look at this song. And depending on your ratios, as I call them, listener to stream and listener to save, it basically just says how well your song is doing. Of the people who listened, how many streamed it more than once? Of the people listened, how many people saved? And so if Spotify sees you have strong ratios for your release, they're going to try it out on Discover Weekly or Release Radar. And
Mm.
then depending on how that goes, if you keep getting good ratios, they'll spread you onto more of those playlists. They'll try you on
Okay.
a few at first, and then you'll grow. And so with Oren, it was the exact same case. We hit Discover Weekly one time, and it's like, oh, that's cool. The next Monday, it doubled. The next Monday, it doubled. The
Wow.
next Monday, it doubled. To where, like I said, it was like 60,000 monthly listeners from zero, just because we got a few thousand streams from playlists, and then they saw the song had good ratios. People liked it
Hmm.
in general. They tried it out on the playlist. So I'm all about avoiding playlist companies and using strategies to organically hit Spotify's algorithms,
Okay.
because I think that's where the long-term growth comes from.
Mm. And wow, so if you want to know more about those strategies in depth, please make sure you check out Nick the Manager. Subscribe
Thank
to
you.
get on his Patreon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, he
all the
has all that stuff is there. And so, look, people got money. We just pay for whatever it is that we pay for. But if you want to make it in this industry, here's a guy that's sitting right in front of you that has the knowledge of a lot of different things. But in this case that we're talking about, specifically Spotify, right? As you said earlier, and as I've been reading in Ari's book, right? I'm gonna reach over here and
yeah.
grab it, but it don't have the cover on it because I don't like I don't like the cover being on the books when I read them. I don't like that.
Oh, the
But
plastic flimsy thing. Yeah,
yes, but this book here,
yeah,
yes, like he talks about how Spotify, you guys are like the new radio stations, and
right.
so back in the day we had to get on radio and we tried to bribe the the program
Yeah,
director,
yeah.
but now Spotify is taking over, and so let me ask you this, and so
Mm.
and this is completely the same topic but different. Did you
Okay.
see the news that came out today about Spotify? Was it Spotify, Apple, and somebody else? They paid 442 million dollars in unpaid royalties to
Oh,
who? See, you gonna make me
the
bring up my
music
yes,
licensing. Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
442
yeah.
million dollars. I thought that
So
was I thought it was so crazy when
right.
I saw that number.
Yes, you said something
Wow.
earlier that was like related. It's that, nobody teaches you this stuff when you're starting out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's intentionally difficult to learn. That's why I wrote my guide, Artist by Profession, talking about how to claim all your royalties, because there is no. Ari's take was probably the best one I found, as
Mm-hmm.
far as figuring that out. But it's really hard to learn, and so it's really hard to claim all of your royalties intentionally. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you don't, they just don't get paid. So it makes sense that they have all these royalties left over, because people don't know how to claim all their music royalties. Like most people, they'll record a song, they'll put it on Spotify through DistroKid or something, and like, yeah, and and then that's it.
Yeah,
They don't know
that's it. I
about
did it.
Pure Roads, any of the other royalties that they're entitled to, and so it all gets left on the table. And
Yep.
if no one's asking for it, why would they pay it?
Right. Right. Yeah, I think it was like 442
Yeah, something like that. I
million.
remember
I
that
was
now.
like, oh, wow. Now, who's that money going to? It's not going to the creatives. It's going to
No.
somebody else, and they get it. Oh my! I saw that today. I was like, oh man, wow.
Yeah.
And then I not even just saw that, but I saw that Instagram. And I know this part is off topic, but I saw that Instagram and TikTok are going to war with each other. So
Oh.
yeah, and so I know as creatives we utilize these platforms to engage with others, to present our brand,
Mm.
and a lot of times we do cross-platform marketing, right? And cross-platform promotion. So I may promote on Twitter, and then I may promote on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. But now Instagram is not allowing you to post TikTok uh,
Oh.
videos on their reels anymore. Or are they going to
Wow.
ban you? Are they going to take it down?
Interesting. Yeah,
Interesting.
that's huh.
I thought it was
A
interesting.
lot of people use their TikTok content cross-platform, so
Cross-platform.
that's gonna have to change some stuff for sure.
Yep, cross-platform. And so I wonder how that's going to impact. I saw the Adam Ivy video where he talks about it, and he said in the video, he said when you think about brands, he
Mm.
said what if you were sponsored by Nike and then somehow they caught you slipping and you wearing Reeboks? You know what I
Yeah.
mean, right? And so Instagram is kind of, I guess they're taking the same route to say, or but you're over TikTok, but how are you going to promote TikTok over here? Like, we're not trying to
Right.
have you promote TikTok here and take, those who may be here over to TikTok.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's
I just thought it was
because
interesting.
TikTok puts their watermark, and so they understand that if people use this other places, then it'll help their
Hmm.
brand. Instagram doesn't. So like you can
No,
make a story or something, a
right.
reel, and you can go post that on TikTok,
Hmm.
but you just can't go the other way. So that's interesting. And then there's also Triller. Triller's pretty similar to
Yep.
TikTok. Are they gonna stop that one too, you think, or just that's weird?
Probably. I think they're going to
Yeah.
stop any type of cross platform promotion that that has a definitive brand attached to it. Like you
Yeah.
said, TikTok has their logo on it, so when you actually go watch some of these reels, you see the TikTok logo and you go, oh, they're on TikTok,
Yeah.
let me go over to TikTok. And I think Instagram is like, okay, I don't want you to do that, but don't leave us to go over to somebody else. But like I said, I know it was off topic, but maybe kind of not,
That's
because I know,
I like learning that stuff. Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
I know as creators we use those platforms to grow our business, to market, to engage, and it's just weird kind of seeing the companies kind of say, "Well, I'm gonna block you. Well, you can't do this. Well, I'm gonna do this." And yeah, just wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was weird. I saw that. I just saw that today. Those two big things today, and I was like, should I make a video today about that? But anyway,
No,
but
that's cool. I'm glad you told me.
but man, ladies and gentlemen, Nick the manager, Nick Jorgensen, Nick
Nick Jordan.
Jorgensen. Uh, Man, so what advice would you give to anybody that's trying to get into this whole music industry? What would you tell them?
Follow me. Uh, no,
Yes. No, for
no,
real.
but
Yes.
seriously, yeah, I post. So I have business stuff and I have services and Patreon, but I post a lot of stories and posts just about networking etiquette. I'll teach you how to interact with people properly because I think communication is not taught well. Like most people I interact with on Instagram or social media in general, they're not well versed at constructing proper messages with the right etiquette. And because of that, it limits how far they can go because nobody's going to want to talk to you if you're sending these messages that don't make them feel good,
Mm-hmm.
So I post a lot of stuff on just like random information you should know, and then a lot on that etiquette and just how to present yourself. And if you ever need help, I always answer questions. So like if you DM me, I'm gonna answer it and I'm gonna post it for everyone else to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that etiquette. I don't think there's etiquette that exists too much in the industry.
Right.
I just did a whole series on networking in the music industry. Everybody go check it out, right? It's on my, matter of fact, a video launched today, so go check it out. But in there, I talk about etiquette, and I don't think people understand how important that is. Etiquette to the point of, so I'll give you the story real quick. So I was at A3C a couple years ago, right? And I had this guy, I was standing outside. I had this guy come up to me. I always tell people, you never know who you're talking to. Now, I'm
Right.
not really anybody, but I could have been somebody. And based upon what he said, kind of would have been like, I don't know. So he walks up to me. Like, this is exactly what he did. Hey, bruh. Hey, I can get some gas?
Yeah.
And I was like, gas. I sat there for a second and I was like, yeah, you go up here, you make a left. When you make this
Shell.
left, make a right, there's a shell over there. Boom, they got what you need.
Yeah.
He was, and the dude was like, nah, man, I'm talking about
Yeah.
that
Well,
weed. And I was
and
like,
I want to get your take. So
yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead,
I
go
want
ahead.
to get your take on this because I think that's so prevalent. I wonder, and I feel like it is partially because of the genre. I think hip hop
Mm,
in general has a lot more of that, or at least it feels like it has a lot more of that ego, where it's
mm-hmm,
like I'm not going to be too nice to you because I don't want you to think I'm soft, that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. Do you feel like it's that way? Because I imagine other industries are a little, usually more courteous.
No other industry is, from what I have seen, is like hip hop. And
Right.
so, and a lot of people will go back and say, well, hip hop, when you think about hip hop was, braggadocious, and it was a lot of bravado and a lot of, and I'm like, what hip hop you looking at? Because the hip hop that I know that started from break beats was no bravado. These
Mhm.
dudes were like, they just came out of the whole disco era. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And they still rocking disco clothes and rapping over break beats and, pop locking and,
Yeah.
doing all that stuff. I'm like, where you like hip hop has not always been this macho bravado type of deal. It was not
Yeah.
that until now. I will say African Bambaataa, when they started, he was in the African. Look African Bambaataa up in the whole gang movement that he. Oh yeah, he was no joke.
Mm.
But they didn't promote violence. They didn't promote violence in their songs. They didn't do any of those until we got to maybe late 90s. I mean, when you think about Run DMC, LL Cool J, Curtis Blow, Kool Moe Dee, Big Daddy Kane, if you start thinking about those early, Rakim, they didn't talk really about I'm gonna shoot you and none of
Yeah.
that stuff. It wasn't about violence. Then somewhere it switched. And I
Right.
would say it switched when it started to become more street, and you had. And now, from the beginning, I think all these guys kind of were in the street. African Bambaataa was, I mean, a gang leader. So, I mean, I
Mm.
think they never promoted it, but somewhere there was a
Right.
switch, and then it turned into this me against you, beef,
Right.
bravado. I mean, you can even go back to when you were looking at the gangs in New York. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like those gangs in New York. But those gangs in New York were killing each other. And what they did, instead of trying to kill each other, they made peace. And what did those gangs in New York become? Breakdancers.
Ah,
They
okay.
became breakdancers, right? And that's what we get, even though they had those jackets with the things cut off, the sleeves cut off, with the
Yeah.
with the emblems all on the back. That was their gang symbols.
Mhm.
But they all turned, pretty much a lot of them turned into breakdancers. They figured out there's a different way for us to do this versus killing one another. But yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, it got to where it is now. I think we became a huge part of the culture somewhere down the
Right.
line. And people who know me know I'll say whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna be in the studio with people smoking weed. I'm not. I just it's just not me. So I don't
Right.
do that. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. Your question. But
Yeah, no, it
um,
did. You gave us the history breakdown, and I think it is important for people to understand that it didn't used to be like this.
right,
At some point, the topic switched, and now it's all, not all, but mostly, violence, guns, drugs, like heavy
drugs.
drug usage, drug selling, all that,
Yeah.
and so I think when these kids are coming up and they're learning about life and music and they're listening to that, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
come in with that same feeling, that same
Yeah.
bravado of
Yeah.
like, I gotta be hard.
Yeah.
I can't be too nice to people. And so yeah, I think it is something that particularly affects hip hop, with that
Mm-hmm.
etiquette thing. But just in general, people don't really understand how to talk to people until you've tried. So yeah, the etiquette is just, it's so
Yeah.
important though. You
It's so
can't
it's
get
so
any more.
important. It's so important. I don't see it in any other industry. I mean, can you imagine uh, Dr. Luke and Max Martin just being real bravado with one another? I mean, the two biggest pop writers in the
Right.
history of pop being
Yeah.
like, I just can't imagine, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, who,
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
way, had the same manager. I don't know, and they
Right.
didn't know it. I don't know how that happened, but I can't see them beefing up with one another. But
Right.
in hip hop, they do, and it's that machoism, it's that bravado that we want to portray, because you had a lot of dudes who came from the street
Right.
that are now, and they were telling the story of their environment and the things that
Mhm.
they saw and things that were going on. So that's why I love NWA, because it was realistic. They told the story of their environment, where where they was, even though they promoted guns and violence and all the other stuff.
Right.
But they
Yeah, but it
told
wasn't with a
their
motive,
story.
I
No,
think a
it
lot
wasn't
of
a
times
motive.
it's a commercial motive now, almost like
Right.
the song will do better if you promote these things,
That's right.
and that's just really unfortunate because that's not what art and music is about. So yeah,
Yeah.
you got a lot to learn.
I'm sure there's people out there who will disagree, but I got a friend that said opinions are like noses. Everybody got one. So,
Yeah.
hey, yep. Man, so man, we've been talking this is great. I wanted to sit here and chop it up with
Thank
you, man, and for a while, and just pick your brain on some things. But man, quickly tell people where they can find you.
Yeah. So like we said, my moniker, Nick the Manager. You won't find too much about me with Nick Jorgenson, but Nick the Manager on Instagram. I have a website, nickthemanager.com, has pretty much everything you need. Has my Patreon, my contest link, has my guide, my playlist, my bio, all that stuff. I don't use Twitter too much, so don't go for me there, but
Yeah, me either.
Instagram and my website, and then Patreon, Nick the Manager.
That's right. Yeah, please make sure y'all go check out his Patreon, support this guy and what he's doing, because we need to get him out of that corporate 9 to 5 or wherever he's working 9 to 5 job, because we need him in this music industry sharing his knowledge and resources and tools and his amazingness with everybody else. But man, any last words you want to say for all of the viewers?
Nah, man, thank you so much for having me. I'm just starting to get into this whole podcast world. This is only my second guest podcast thing, so I really appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to tell my story because, there's not a lot of platforms to do that. So let me know if I can ever help you in any way, or I'll definitely spread the message of this podcast. But
I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that. And anybody listening, I'm trying to do like more of like a podcast type segment where it's like me, you, and maybe like another person or 2 other people, and we just sit here and talk about a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But not gas though. But oh man, but man, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm sure, of course, we're gonna be in contact as well. But man, let's wrap it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, so before we do that, so make sure you stay before I when it ends. I got to chit chat a couple minutes before it ends. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you being here on We Create Music TV. Man, it has been a joy talking to Nick Jorgenson, aka Nick the Manager. Please make sure you check out his Patreon. Make sure you support him. Make sure you support what we're doing here at We Create Music TV. And I'm looking down because the monitor is here, but I need to be looking at all of you right here in the camera. But yeah, once again, thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate all of you. You can check us out every Monday and every Thursday at 7 p.m. for all of our additional content, our master classes. Like I said, we just dropped networking in the music industry. We did a whole branding in the music industry one, and we're getting ready to do like a 7 habits for highly effective music creators. So make sure you check that out once we're done and it drops. But appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button. And ladies and gentlemen, we are out.